Today we're talking about how to be a successful music teacher as a highly sensitive person without burning out. So if you are familiar with an HSP, that's what we're talking about. I am one. If you're not familiar, I'll tell you a little bit about it. But first things first, I want to let you know. Today we are doing a giveaway once we hit 100 subscribers on the YouTube channel. So if you're watching on YouTube, awesome. Say hi in the comments. I'd love to connect with you there. If you are not on YouTube, you can go pop over to YouTube and search Andrea Orem or the title of this video, and you should be able to pop it up and find it just perfectly. Okay. But let's get talking because I think this is such an important topic because so many teachers kind of fit in this category of highly sensitive. And let me explain what that is. And I have a resource in the link in the description of this video. Sorry. If you are totally unfamiliar with this concept, but you think maybe some of this fits you a little bit. All right. So there are about 20% of the population who could be considered highly sensitive. This just means they fit certain characteristics or certain traits. But that means that because there's only 20% of us, the world isn't always super well suited for these traits or for us in specific. So let me give you a couple examples. I'm really sensitive to light. So and I'll talk about this for teaching in a minute, but that means that the fluorescent lights that you find in most buildings and in schools and things like that really bother me. One example, I'm also sensitive to loud noises. I don't go to the fireworks. If I do, I bring all the ear protection and it still doesn't help all the way, that kind of thing. I'm also really overwhelmed by strong smells. So those are some examples. You can also be very emotionally sensitive as well. So there's like, I don't know, 20 characteristics or something about these. And so if you fit a lot of them, then you're probably highly sensitive. If you fit less of them, maybe you're a little less so. But the point is, sometimes this trait which I personally see as a strength, can be seen as a challenge to overcome when we are thrown into the whole world of everybody else, right? The 80% who maybe don't share those uniquenesses. So, hey, my friend Lydia, if you're watching live and you want to say good morning, I'll maybe even throw you up on the screen like that. Good morning, my friend Lydia. Glad to have you here. So let's talk a little bit. By the way, if you were like, I could use more debriefing on this whole HSP thing, I put a link in the description of this video for the lady who came up with the term and all the information regarding that. So there's a book you can read. I've read it. It's pretty good. So you go check that out if you want to learn more about HSPs. But today I'm going to talk about how to be a successful music teacher in specific as a highly sensitive person, because I'm an HSP and because being a music teacher involves so many things that potentially other types of teaching don't necessarily, or other types of teachers don't always have to consider, and how I navigate all of that as someone who has these unique traits, right? And how I can thrive in this setting, even though some of the things that I would be asked to do maybe don't seem like they would fit well with my traits. So let's get started. I'm going to make each of these pretty quick because I like to keep these videos under 10 minutes if I can. So number 1, learn to let go when your lessons don't go as planned. So you're working with people, especially kids. Try to let go a little bit more, be a little more free, a little more flexible in order to succeed. You'll feel a lot less stress if you do that, and you'll enjoy the process a lot more. All right. Number 2, for being successful as a music teacher and an HSP at the same time, give yourself permission to say no. This is so important. So for example, here's an example of what I did when I taught public school, because I don't teach public school anymore. If you're interested in learning more about that freelance life, I talk about that in the new and freelance music teacher community group. So if you are not in that group, you can go check out the link in the description of this video. If you are in that group, hey, I'm so glad you're here. Glad you're able to join me this morning. But permission to say no. So when I taught public school, I struggled to eat in the lunchroom. And I didn't realize it wasn't because of the people there. People were good. It wasn't because I didn't enjoy interacting with my colleagues. It was because I was so overwhelmed, oversensitive. Like my system was overwhelmed, just sensory wise. And I needed that lunch break, quiet and alone for the most part, most days, to successfully teach in the morning, reset at lunch, and then go into my afternoon, able to give my afternoon students what I started with in the morning as far as energy and ability to thrive, right? So that was one of the things that I said no to. I chose to say no to eating in the lunchroom every day. I think I ate there once a week. So I could still connect with people, still engage, not seem like a hermit. And I wasn't being a hermit because I didn't like being social. I do like being social. But I knew that my body needed that reset. And I knew that was going to be really helpful for me in the long run. So that was the decision I made. And if that is a decision you need to make, that's a great example of learning to say no and giving yourself permission to say no. Here's another example. Maybe by the time you hit Friday, you shouldn't do social engagements on Friday night because your body won't enjoy it the way that you would if you waited till Saturday, right? So that could be another example of ways that you set up boundaries in your life, whether it's personal or professional, so that you can succeed, so that you can do well, and you don't let other people's pressure try and force you to do something different that's not going to actually help you succeed, right? So that's number 2. Give yourself permission to say no. Number 3, your empathy is the superpower that your students need. So most people are like, oh, how come, like, if only 80% or only 20% of the population is an HSP, like, how can I be a successful music teacher and reach the other kids that are not sensitive, right? But really, think about it. Probably less teachers, percentage-wise, are HSPs. So the students you do have who are struggling in those areas, or maybe learning how to adapt to the world with those similar sensitivities, they're going to see you advocating for that. Even if you're not super verbal or explicit about it, they're going to notice things and just be grateful for them, right? And so your students, especially your HSP students, but really everybody, are going to thrive by you using your superpower of your sensitivities, whether that's emotionally or physically. So use it as a strength because it really is, right? Let's see. Number 4, give yourself some grace, especially if you're a newer teacher and you're trying to figure out how to make all this work. This took me a few years to figure out how to set myself up for success and to help me be able to actually do well at what I wanted to do, right? And be able to make my environment, whether it was physically or schedule-wise, structurally, that way. So give yourself grace. It takes some time. And sometimes we can be too hard on ourselves, or we can just expect things of ourselves that we're not good there yet, right? For example, I'm more comfortable around kids. I am goofier and more at ease with a room full of 120 kids than I am in front of or trying to connect and chat with adults. I'm getting better at that, right? That is an area I'm growing in, but I tend towards that, right? Because that's just an area of ease for me. So I give myself grace and I help myself be in situations where I can learn how to do that better and continually learn how to grow in that area. But I don't make myself feel bad for having to grow in that area because we all have areas of growth, right? And the same thing goes for some of our HSP sensitivities. Give yourself grace for the areas that you need it and be able to look at your strengths when you can. Number 5, I guess I think we're on 5. When things get tough, lean on your support system. And if you don't have a support system, find one. If you need one, we have that new and freelance music teacher support community. I'd love to see you over there. So if you're not in that group already, it's a wonderful space. We talk a lot of all sorts of different topics related to music teaching, or if you're interested in starting a side gig or wanting to move out of the public and you're going to the freelance world, I've done that too. So we talk a lot about that. So find a community that is going to be supportive of you and help you work through those challenges and come up with creative solutions, right? That's what it's all about. And use those people, whether they're in person, whether they are online, whether it's some of both, use those people to lean on when you do have those days that you struggle. For example, when I first get home at the end of the day, my husband knows I'm not going to be super chatterbox and want to talk all about my day and that kind of stuff. He's like, nope, you need a good 15 minutes to like decompress and figure out, where your brain and your body are at, and give yourself time to have a reset. And then I'm ready to talk and to have fun, or to connect with him, or to make supper, or whatever it is I need that we're doing that night, right? So he knows that he's my support system, and he's able to help me do that because he isn't interrupting that. He knows, okay, you need that time and that space. I will support that by helping you do that. And then we will connect afterwards. And it works so much better that way. And I know that needs to happen. He knows that needs to happen, and he's supportive of it. So that's a small example of ways you can lean on your support system. Number 6, and then we're almost done here. This is the last one. Adapt your environment to fit your needs. So I'll give you 2 quick examples of this. Number 1, I use different things in my environment to support my body in sensitivities. So here's one example. I use essential oils like lavender, like all sorts of them, actually. I use a lot of different ones to help my body system reset. And some people are like, oh, I'm so sensitive to smells. Me too. So I had to make sure that mine were pure and didn't have any other fillers, because that's the stuff I was sensitive to, not the actual plants. Just kind of a weird thing. So if you're like, oh, interesting, and you want to ask me more about that, you're welcome to message me, and I can point you in the right direction. I also put a link in the description of this video for some of the tools that I use, so you can reference that as well, if that would bless you. If not, no big deal. But that is one way that I adapt my environment to help support my sensitivities and help me reset when I need it, right? Another example is that lighting issue. Remember, I referenced the fluorescent lights problem? Well, I used my classroom. I used specific lights to help me function better. So instead of using 2 banks of fluorescent lights and it was so bright in there I couldn't even think straight and I'd get a big headache, I actually put those like icicle lights around the outside at the top of my room. I did get permission. I made sure that was okay. It wasn't like going to break a fire code or something like that. So I did make sure that was going to be all okay. But I filled my room with that light so that then when we did certain activities, and it wasn't the whole day, right? I didn't use that exclusively, but I was able to turn off some of the lights, the fluorescent lights, and have this different environment, this different atmosphere, and this cooler light, so that then, or warmer light, I guess you would call it, whatever they call it, different levels of light, so that I could like have a reset. And I'm sure that was super helpful for my other HSP students who might struggle with that type of lighting as well. I know some other people choose to put covers on the lights so that it's like makes different colors. And I know they make specific covers that are safe for those school fluorescent light banks and stuff like that. So I don't know a ton about that either, but those are 2 examples of ways you can adapt your environment to benefit you and to help your body, but then in tandem to also help your students. So I hope you found these little tips helpful. I love talking about this kind of stuff and helping people, specifically HSPs, thrive in this music teacher world, because let's be honest, it isn't really designed for us. At least most people don't think so. They're like, oh, your room is noisy and chaotic. Well, maybe, but I'm able to facilitate that space in a way that I can thrive in and that I can function well in. And hopefully my other students who feel the same way or who have similar sensitivities can do the same. So I know I went a little long on this video. Sorry, friends, but also not sorry, because I gave you some awesome gold today. So have a great rest of your day. Check out the new music teacher and freelance music teacher community group if you're interested. And I will catch you again tomorrow morning for another live. Bye for now.